The main points I'm going to try to make tonight relate to the fact that we could do a better job of growing the food that we need to live by thinking about ecological systems.
The big question to this panel is, how will we feed 9 billion people later in the century who want to eat more and more like Americans and simultaneously deal with the environmental problems of agriculture?
It's important to understand how different agricultural methods and technologies can contribute to sustainable agriculture, and what their strengths and weaknesses are, because ultimately we have to decide where we're going to invest.
We're still at the beginning of exploiting the sea, and we have the opportunity to change things. Small changes now will make big differences down the road.
The Conservancy is a very pragmatic, results-oriented organisation, and I'd like to bring some of that to this debate about food security and the way the world food system should go over the next generation.
When you're trying to visualize a food system in the future that does, in some ways, take the best of both worlds, what would that actually look like?
So we've got to feed today, double that by 2050, and then think about how to make this truly sustainable at a planetary scale. And that's the one where I'm the most worried, frankly.
We are driving the largest sea creatures in the ocean extinct in our lifetimes. Some of the largest fish have declined in just the last 50 years by 90%. Here's a map of the Atlantic Ocean. The hotter colors are where there was a lot of fish. The cooler colors are where there are fewer fish. That's 1900. 100 years later, here's the picture. There are fewer fish.
We have to get radically more efficient in terms of providing nutrition with less environmental harm and resource consumption. We have no other choice.
I'm going to talk about genetic engineering. Why do we even want to discuss it? So far, newer forms of breeding are certainly outperforming genetic engineering. The other concern I have is how it fits into the broader diversity of agriculture.
One of the things that I know from biological studies is that more diverse systems are healthier systems and more resilient to stress. So planning for multifunctional landscapes that have a lot of different types of organisms that are grown, investing in underutilized species. One of the things we don't spend a lot of time with is thinking about things like insects. So about 1,400 insects are eaten around the world. Right here we have a very tasty selection of silkworm pupae. This is a cultural thing, and we need to be more aware of this. It's certainly a lot easier to create a lot of insect larvae than it is to create, for instance, a cow. Not to say that you should never eat meat, but there are choices that we can make in our life that are healthy for us and healthy for the planet.
Poultry is about 10 times more efficient on a protein conversion basis than beef is. So if you still like to eat meat, eat more chicken. A lot of the future of this will be determined on what happens to China and India's diets. India is actually beginning to eat more meat, which is kind of surprising, but it's a sign of affluence and westernization. Yeah. There's a huge increase in beef consumption in India right now. It's one of the most rapidly growing in the world.
It's true that they say 2 or 3 billion more people by the end of the century, but if you look at when that population increase is going to happen, most of it will have happened by the middle point of the century. So we could just get through the next 30 or 40 years without a total collapse of capitalism, then maybe we'll be in a sort of slightly more stable place where we might be able to get through this.
Yeah, but population isn't the issue, it's consumption. The richer we get, the more we consume, and the more we consume, the richer we want to get, and there's no end in sight. So I don't think the world peaks in 2050. I think we're going to keep going, maybe triple food production by the end of the century.
On the one hand, the downside, increased consumption. On the upside, it may also mean that we're going to have a much more educated population.
If there's one lesson to take away from this panel, it's that you should eat bugs. But that's actually, we have run out of time, but thank you very much to the panel, to the audience. Something about this particular subject that seems to generate this sort of discussion, because there's a lot of different ways you can come at it. You need that kind of cross-discipline, cross-field communication, and these sort of events can help, I think, foster that and also communicate that to the public as well. There's a lot of passion that comes from both academics but also just ordinary people when it comes to food, because it's something we interact with 3 times a day. It's really the biggest part of environmentalism in a kind of broad way that touches everyone's daily lives.